Thank you so much, Paul. Hello, colleagues. This is a very special day, at least in Switzerland. It's the first day where we are moving back to being somehow normal. After 2 years of hardship for everyone, this is the first day, at least in Switzerland, where the government has declared the end of the pandemic, and slowly, we are going to be back in a normal mode. I hope the same will apply in your countries, wherever you are. We have participants from 73 countries, it seems, and this will be a very exciting event. Let me just say a few words on GPE, KIX, on IDRC, and on NORRAG. This is the 11th webinar of the KIX project. KIX stands for Knowledge and Innovation Exchange. The idea is to surface, amplify, and strengthen capacity and the use of research in the Global South, and to give voice to local experts, and to hear and to strengthen that voice. So our job at NORRAG in Geneva is to do this. We do that by webinars, we do that by podcasts, by blogs, by learning cycles, etc. The project is funded by the Global Partnership for Education. It's a 4-year project, and the overall global administrator of this grant is IDRC, based in Ottawa. We are in charge of 21 countries, and the countries we are very pleased include Russian-speaking countries and Arab-speaking countries. And for this reason, everything we do is in these 3 languages. One word on NORRAG. NORRAG is turning 45-year-olds. We are an old institution. We get core funding from the Swiss government, but also from research projects. And NORRAG has the same vision and mission as KIX. So we are very pleased to be the hub for the 21 countries. Our mission is also to amplify local expertise from the Global South. We think local experts don't speak up enough, don't participate enough, and the world would be a better place, and school systems would be better, and school reforms more effective if more local experts get involved. Having said this, let me pass the floor to our wonderful hub manager for the KIX EAP hub, which stands for Europe, Asia, Pacific, and this is José Luis Canellas. José Luis.
Thank you, Professor Gedestamsis. So welcome everyone to the KIX EAP webinar. It's our 11th webinar. This webinar today is focused on teacher professional development, and I'll ask Paul to share the agenda today. I'll introduce you to the speakers who come from the Global South, and they will explain how teacher professional development is so critical to ensure that education reforms are effective and produce the results that we want to see. So we'll start with a key presentation by Li Cherping, who is Chair Professor of Learning, Technologies and Innovation at the Education University of Hong Kong. He will talk about designing and implementing teacher professional development at scale in the Global South. We'll then have 5 minutes for questions and discussions, and we invite all the participants to include your questions in the chat, and we will read them right after the presentation. Then we'll have a second presentation that's focused on the case study of Philippines and how teacher professional development at scale is being implemented in the Philippines. Victoria Tinio, Executive Director of the Foundation for Information Technology, Education and Development, is leading this presentation. We will have a second 5 minutes for quick discussions. Again, please include your questions in the chat. A final presentation will focus on the Uzbekistan case study, and Bakhtiyor Namazov, Program Specialist in Education from UNESCO Tashkent, will lead the presentation. We'll have then a longer 15-20 minutes space for open discussion, and I just now pass the floor to Cherping Ling, and wish you all a very good knowledge exchange experience. Chair, please.
Thank you very much, Jose, as well as a welcome by Gita. A very good morning, very good afternoon, and good evening to all. since we're all from very different parts of the world. I will just be sharing with you my screen right now. You should be able to see my screen now, right? I think like first I would want to thank the NORRAG as well as the KIX EAP Hub for hosting this event and actually allowing us to co-organize this with you. We actually belong to the TPD at Scale Coalition for the Global South, which is actually funded by the IDRC. I would be talking more about the coalition after I make a proper introduction of TPD and also the at scale part of the TPD, right? So we have like 3 speakers here, including myself. As what Jose said, we have got Vicky, who is the Secretariat Director of the coalition, and we have got Deepak Dio, that is part of our KIX GPE project in Uzbekistan, right? I would be doing an introduction to the TPD at scale with respect to designing and implementing TPD at scale in the Global South, right? So I will reckon that as we are going through, and as what Geeta said, you know, it's like as we go to the tail end of the pandemic to like living with the COVID-19, right? It is quite clear with school closure, university closure, that the role of the teacher is really pivotal, right? And like for us to be able to achieve SDG 4, which is about inclusive and quality education and promoting lifelong learning for all, right? We need to be quite explicit that the role of the teachers is pivotal, right? In really trying to build back the education system for the better. Of course, we need to rely on the education workforce, right? But I think in this presentation itself, right, we will be focusing on the teachers in trying to build the capacity of the teachers, right? And if we look at the data, right, like pre-pandemic, right, we could see a massive teacher shortage, not just in terms of the quantity, but also in the quality, right? So it's not just the number of teachers that need to be recruited and trained, right? But it's also the assisting teachers in the workforce that are poorly like prepared, that actually highlight the need for in-service teacher education, right? Which brings us to the TPD part. So what exactly do we, or how do we really define teacher professional development in the context that we are working in, right? It's quite clear that it will be activities that is about developing competencies of the teachers based on a set of competency like framework that might be nationally defined or system-wide defined, right? It may be formal or informal experience, right? But I think like what is really crucial is that it must be long-term, it must be continuous, from pre-service to induction to in-service, right? It must be about the teacher managing the professional learning process as they engage in professional lifelong learning, right? And the thing is, we are also looking at a more system approach whereby TPD is being adopted to ensure that we are actually able to be inclusive in that capacity building, right? And it should be done in a cost-effective way, right? So TPD at scale, when we are looking at scale, like we are looking at scale from 2 perspectives. One, we are drawing upon the work by Brookings Institute about scaling, right? Where we are looking at the range of pathways that expand and deepen effective approaches that lead to lasting improvement in people's lives, right? So we are actually looking at expanding, we are looking at depth, and we are looking at sustainability, right? Which means that when we look at scale from the Brookings Institute perspective of scaling, we are looking at horizontal, where we want more teachers to be engaged in professional development in more places, right? We want it to be vertical as well, whereby there is policy adoption, not just at the system level, but also at the local government level and also the school level. We are looking at not just professional development per se, but the ecosystem that is supporting the professional development as well, right? Looking at the organization, building the capacity of the organization, of the system to be able to support the teacher professional development. And of course, the more functional aspect of scaling, looking at more activities whereby we could be supporting teachers as they engage in their professional learning the journey in order to ensure that they are able to meet up to their own professional learning trajectory, right? When we are looking at scale as well, I think in the TPD at scale context, we are also like looking at ICT, right? A range of ICT from the radio SMSs right through to the internet, smartphones, etc. Right, so we are looking at the professional learning environments that are mediated by ICT, information and communication technologies, that engage large numbers of learners, in this case teachers, whether remotely or face-to-face. Right, so we are quite often looking at a blended or hybrid type of learning environment or professional learning environment. So when we put all this together, right, what TPD at scale really hope to achieve, right, is not just to ensure quality teacher professional development, right, where we draw a lot of our work on effective TPD, right? I think when we look at research on effective teacher professional development, it has been around for the longest time, last 2 to 3 decades, right? That professional development of teachers, if it's going to be effective, it should involve active learning, it should be collaborative in nature, there should be application of what they have learned to a real classroom, there should be support given, not just coaching and expert support, but peer support as well. There should be feedback, there should be reflection, and it should be over a sustained period of time, right? So we hope to be able to achieve that, the quality part. But I think it's at the same time, we need to ensure that you are able to achieve the scale, right? So you want to ensure that it is inclusive, right? It is able to reach out to groups of teachers working in marginalized communities, groups of teachers working in remote and rural area, right? And the thing is, as we try to achieve equity and equality, you need to ensure that the TPD, due to scarce resources that we have, right, is able to ensure cost effectiveness as well. So the efficiency aspect of it. But at the same time, we are also looking at efficiency in terms of external efficiency, that the teachers are able to go through professional development in such a way that they are able to carry out the different practices that are expected of them as we undergo curriculum and assessment reforms within the country. So that efficiency of internal and external efficiency, right? So in order to be able to address that tension of quality, equity, and efficiency, right, we draw upon the whole research area on learning at scale, right, that we have been reading quite a lot about in the last 10 years, right, of massive open online courses, open courseware, right? So it might be network, it might be non-network. We are looking at peer learning networks, professional learning communities, communities of practices, and when we look at personalized learning, intelligent tutoring system, and all this trying to address the issues and the challenges of teacher professional development in the global south, right? So you would have seen at the bottom of our text and our logo in the title, Teacher Professional Development at Scale Coalition for the Global South. So what is this coalition about? right? Which I would be explaining after this, right? So, like to be able to achieve the equity, quality, and efficiency, we want the TPD that we are looking at to be embedded within the existing ecosystem, right? We want to ensure that we are able to like create the accessibility, right, for all members of the teaching workforce to regular, high quality, job embedded teacher professional learning opportunities and experiences throughout their career, right? And we want to be able to harness upon the power of digital technologies, right? And this is exactly what TPD Scale try to do, right? It is about a collaborative effort, right, of education and technology stakeholders who are engaging in teacher professional development, right? And we are doing so with our mission of quality, equitable, and sustainable large-scale ICT-mediated teacher professional development through collaboration, research, and implementation support, right? So you could see some of the objectives that we have, where we have been working with governments and NGOs, when we have been supporting research and knowledge sharing within large-scale programs, and also trying to harmonize the efforts and investment of TPD Scale in the Global South. What I'm going to do, just like before I go into the sharing of the different examples, these are just some of the founding members of the TPD Scale Coalition for the Global South that was set up in 2018, where the founding members actually met in my university, the Education University of Hong Kong, for their first meeting, where we actually like started. I think I am muted. No, good. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm just going to share with you like some of the examples from Asia, and then after that I would get Vicky to share in detail the Philippines case and Bhaktil to share in detail the Uzbekistan case, right? This is by one of our partners, Peking University X-Learning Center model, right? Where we are looking at them back in 2015, running in-service courses through massive open online courses, whereby they try to reach out to teachers in rural areas in China, right? You could see that most of the interaction actually takes place in the MOOC platform, but what they didn't plan was all the informal professional learning communities that actually have sprouted out as the teachers are working through the MOOCs within the MOOC platform, right? So what they have done over the years is actually to try to formalize those professional learning communities at the school level and also across different schools. Like two more examples are from India. One is Open University working together with the Ministry of Human Resource Development in India, looking at trying to upskill the teachers in India within like some of the states, drawing upon the edX platform, getting teachers to work through it, right? And then after that, as the teachers are working through the courses, there's a professional learning community supporting the teachers as they are working through the different like courses itself. What they have done in this particular model is they have facilitators, right? That would be working the teachers through the massive open online courses. Next one is the KIX India, which is by Tata Institute, where again, using massive open online courses, getting teachers to work on it. But the thing is, what one key difference is that the teachers are expected to apply what they have learned, right, and share what they have applied in the classroom and do a reflection of that with their peers in the professional learning community. So again, that professional learning community is usually facilitated on social media platform, right? There is another example from Indonesia, whereby we were working with the Putra Sampurna Foundation, one of the largest education foundation in Indonesia, working at the Regency level, looking at between 18,000 to 20,000 teachers per Regency, whereby they set up the teacher learning center with the master teachers, creating courses to work through with the teachers within that Regency itself. Again, a lot of it is done through social media that the teachers are using on a day-to-day basis with the resources put on Schoology, right? The Vicky would be providing you more details about the ELLN digital model in the Philippines, working with the Department of Education in the Philippines. And the Bhaktio would be giving you more information and sharing with you the experiences of coming out with the model in Uzbekistan. This is just one of the models. He'll be sharing with you two models that they are now like working on right now under the KIX GPE project. Right, so based on all these models, I've got just 3 key insights that I would want to quickly run through with you. One is the design for scale and localized for inclusion. It's quite crucial that we need to ensure that the resources and the courses that the teachers are working through eventually could be localized to the context that they're working in. So the role of the professional learning community is really crucial. In the Philippines, they call it the Learning Action Cell. It's quite crucial that we are able to match technology choice with the professional learning needs and the context that the teachers are working in, right? So again, you will see that in some of the cases that we have, they are not working in a network learning environment. They are working in a standalone environment, just like in the case of the Philippines, whereby they will be working through the courses, right, on an open courseware. And the third one, which is one of the most important insight, is the whole need to constantly act, evaluate, and improve. Again, like something that Vicky would be giving you more information on, both at the system level, as we are looking at the TPD Scale model, but also at the teacher individual level, where they are constantly learning, learning, applying, and reflecting upon what they have learned. Right, so some key implications about designing at scale and adapting at the local level for inclusion. The use of ICT, the types of ICT used must be, the consideration must be given with respect to not just the professional learning context, but also the teacher's current experiences, right? And of course, the need to work in partnership with different stakeholders, both from the government, public, as well as the non-government and the private sector, right? And also the multi-sectorial partnerships that, again, Vicky and Bhaktio would share a bit more with you. Right, so I would like to end here with a thank you before we have some Q&A, which I think Marina would be moderating. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. That has been a great overview of what TPD at Scale is doing, and it will lead us well to the next presentations. But first, let's stop for a few minutes and take some questions from the chat. We just received a very interesting one from Sukla Day from Bangladesh, and which has actually 2 questions. One is a quite simple one, I guess, and the second one, I think it's an issue that you just touched upon at the end of your presentation, Chair. So first is, when you talk about TPD, do you mean development of school teachers or teachers at the university level as well? And then second question is about the community role. So she's asking, what are the external efficiency? Sorry, when you talk about ecosystem, do you consider the community in the ecosystem? What would be their community role in TPD? I think you already addressed that you consider them part of the ecosystem, but if you can expand a little bit on the community role in TPD.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for the question. Think let's probably start with the simpler one first, which is when we are looking at TPD. Of course, we are looking at the whole range like K to 12, TVET, and higher education, right? But I would say that at this point, quite a lot of our work have been done with respect to K to 12 teachers in schools, right? But the thing is, there are instances whereby we are working with partners, just like my university, working in a World Bank project that is looking at higher education improvement, right? So we are actually looking at TPD in terms of the higher education professors, lecturers, and teachers within the university context, right? So I think we need to be quite careful that when we are looking at TPD, it's actually one whole range, right? But a lot of the projects that we are looking at in the coalition, quite a lot focus on K to 12. Yeah. The second question is with regards to the community and the ecosystem. Think as we are looking at TPD, I think we need to be quite careful that we are not just looking at the TPD program per se, right? Because for the TPD program to be effective, right, we need to ensure that the ecosystem is conducive enough to be able to support that, right? So the ecosystem, of course, would include the community. So within that community, it would be the education workforce, right? So right from the policymakers, the education officials at the local government level, national government level, right through to the school leaders, the parents, the school counselors, right? So we would be looking at the whole range, right? And we always need to emphasize that for TPD Scale program to be effective, I think we need to be quite wary, and we need to focus on also building the capacity of the system to be able to support the program itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just, I think we have a minute for one more question. That came from Farida Rizkiuleva, I'm sorry, from Kyrgyzstan. And she's asking a little bit about the sustainability of TPD. So she's asking who finances teacher training, and if it is a specific project, then how will sustainability be ensured after the project?
Yeah, I think it is a great question, and it will be something that you would hear from Vicky's presentation itself, because the project that she is sharing would actually show that the importance of it first to be demand driven, right? So it must be driven by the demand from the national level or from the local government level, that there is a need for that capacity building, right? And there is a need to rethink about how teacher professional development is done to ensure more inclusiveness, right? So that would be one, that it must be demand driven, it must be problem driven. Two, it is quite important that it must be evidence-based, right? That we must be able to try out something small first, right? Be able to gather evidences to actually convince policymakers as well as aid agencies, right? To be able to put in more funding into that particular project itself to ensure that it would be sustained. And think the last key thing is what the majority of you would have known is really trying to get the buy-in of the key stakeholders. And the buy-in is not just a buy-in per se, it's like where they agree or disagree, but the buy-in is we must be building their capacity, right? Not just to be able to understand it, but to be able to support it, right? So the buy-in is also about the capacity building of the key stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ping. I think that has been really clear and informative for all of us. So I think in the interest of time, we'll move to our next presentation. But just so that everyone that is sending questions in the chat knows, we'll have time at the end to come back to some questions that haven't been addressed. So let me then give the word to Victoria Tinho, Executive Director of the Foundation for Information Technology, Education and Development, who will present to us the Philippines case study. Victoria. Can you
Victoria,
hear
Thank
me?
you, Marina. Yes.
Perfect.
I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you to everyone for being here and giving us your time and attention. I'm pleased to present the case of the TPD Scale in the Philippines. I'll just briefly give you an overview and a background, a very brief background on the system in the Philippines so we can situate ourselves, and then take you through the timeline of development and field testing and scaling of the TPD at Scale model with the Department of Education in the Philippines, and then we'll conclude with some key insights. So the system in the Philippines, is centralized. So it's the education, the Department of Education is headed by a secretary. And then under the secretary are several offices of undersecretaries. So, and these would be for curriculum and instruction, governance and operations, finance, legal, strategic management. But there are also adjunct agencies that are under the office of the secretary, including two that are related to teacher learning, teacher education. So the Teacher Education Council is meant to promote the collaboration between different agencies for focused on pre-service and in-service teacher education. The National Educators Academy of the Philippines is the work of the NEAP, is more focused on in-service teacher training. So what I will describe to you involves more NEAP than the Teacher Education Council, the models that we tested. So in the Philippines, there are 4 levels of governance. So there's the central level that's headed by the secretary, and in the field, there are regional offices, which are clusters of provinces. And then there are schools division offices, which are equivalent to municipalities or cities. And then under those are the schools and learning centers for alternative learning. Schools for formal learning, learning centers for alternative learning. The schools divisions offices are the operational hubs. So this is really where the make or break sort of units that manage and support and provide assistance and financing to the schools and learning centers. There are 17 regional offices in the Philippines, 223 division offices, approximately 60,000, almost 61,000 schools, primary and secondary schools, and about 900,000 K-12 teachers, 26 million students. Now, relevant to the building and testing of the TPD at Scale model, there are certain fairly recent developments. In 2013, we overhauled our education system and added 2 years. So K-10 became K-12. So that was a big reform. And then in 2014, because the Philippines has struggled, and it's at the bottom of the list of in terms of reading comprehension among many countries in the world. And so they started an Every Child a Reader program, and supporting this a training program called Early Language Literacy and Numeracy, or ELLN, in 2014. And then in 2015, there was a CPD law, or a continuing professional development law, that was passed for all professions. And this required teachers to earn 5 mandatory units of professional learning units beginning the school year 2019-2020. So also in 2015, ELLN, the TPD course, was required by the department to be taken by all K-3 teachers. Traditionally, CPD is done, or TPD, in-service training for teachers, is done using a cascade, a face-to-face cascade model. So it goes from the central office to region to division to districts to schools, face-to-face. In 2016, the Department of Education reintroduced what they call a school-based learning action cell, which is a mentoring and co-learning mechanism to support continuing TPD. It's a face-to-face professional learning community that are meant to meet regularly to collaborate on learning among teachers. So this was the context of our development of a TPD at scale model in the Philippines. So in 2016, 2017, we were asked by the Department of Education to help accelerate the delivery of their face-to-face ELLN course in a cost-effective, timely manner without compromising quality. So what we did was we developed a blended learning model to deliver ELN called ELLN Digital. So we did the pilot for that involving, sorry, that's not 400, that's 4,000 teachers, 4,000 plus teachers in 240 schools in 31 divisions and 11 regions. So that pilot was completed in 2017, and then a third-party evaluation was done in 2018, which yielded very positive results. And also suggested enhancements to the courseware and guides all the course materials based on the results of the evaluation. Then that ELLN digital program and model was turned over to the Department of Education. So ELLN digital was the building and testing of the model was funded by a smallish grant from USAID Philippines, given to FitEd, and then we partnered with DepEd to do the development of the model and the testing. So when we say we turn it over to the Department of Education, that means they make it part of their regular programming and it becomes institutionalized. So in 2019, they decided, okay, we think that the model is promising and we're impressed by the results, so we're going to scale it up nationally. So we then figured out how to do the scale up in late 2019 and developed tools to facilitate that scale up, including the conduct of national cluster orientation workshops, and then delivered it at the division level and at the school level beginning in September 2019 in 3 cycles. So we were only able to complete the first scale up cycle from September 2019 to April 2020 because it had to be paused due to the pandemic. So what happened was during the pandemic school year 2020-2021, we were asked by NAEAP to help them prepare the teachers, all the teachers, so about 900,000 teachers in about 60,000 schools for remote learning. Because during the pandemic in the Philippines, there were no face-to-face classes allowed. So right before the school year started in October 2020, we worked with NAEAP to develop this what we call the learning delivery modalities course for school teachers and then for school leaders to help them deliver remote learning for the first time ever. So these courses were, these 2 courses were then delivered from June 2020 to August 2021, covering the whole pandemic school year. Okay, that's the timeline. So first, the ELL and digital pilot. So what were the challenges? There were many challenges in implementing traditional face-to-face cascade model for teacher training in so many schools. So there was a need to assess teacher competencies, the magnitude of the teachers that needed TPD, and how to sustain TPD over time. So we were asked, as I said, to develop an alternative model and to test this model for flexibility, scalability, cost efficiency, inclusiveness, and sustainability. And this model, the course that we used to test the blended model was based on the original established ELLN course that was delivered over 10 weeks, face-to-face and cascaded. So the Department of Education gave us very specific design parameters. They said you cannot change the content of the course, and for everyone to be able to participate and to meet targets of delivering ELLN to all of the teachers, there should be no online engagement directly with the school teachers, and we had to use the school-based learning action cells. So we did that, and then the third part, the evaluation, yielded positive results, small but significant gains in teacher knowledge and learning, measured by a pre and post content and pedagogical knowledge test and a teacher strengths and needs assessment tool. But there were considerable variations in performance between schools, and rural teachers performed significantly better than urban teachers. Teacher satisfaction was highly positive, and these results were supported by qualitative data gathered in 6 case study schools. So the evaluation proposed recommended enhancements to the courseware, differentiating activities and resources per grade level, providing supplementary learning resources, giving video demonstrations that featured a wider range of DepEd schools in terms of their resources and the profile of the students, and providing assessment rubrics. We also created video materials on conducting LAC sessions and then guides to using ELL and digital. So here is the model. So the first step is that you're provided with a readiness assessment tool, basically a list of readiness items that you have to have in place for you to be able to say that you're ready to do ELL digital. So based on the results of this readiness assessment that each school does, then they can plan their implementation of the ELL digital, how many of their teachers and which of their teachers should be taking it in the first cohort or second cohort or third cohort and so on. So there are several components to the ELL digital model. The first component is self-learning, guided independent study using digital courseware. With those additional learning activities and resources per grade level. So teachers will study on their own. And then they're supposed to practice what they learned as they go through the modules and the lessons in their classrooms. The second component is classroom practice of new concepts. And then the third element would be collaborative learning in the school-based learning action cells. So they meet every 2 weeks, and there's a structure to the LACs that's provided. There's a guide to doing LACs so that they have focused discussions and collaborations and reflection. So throughout, they're doing reflection and knowledge building. They are supported by, in this, they are supported by coaches that are already part of the DepEd system at the district and division level, who are called technical assistance providers. And they were through periodic face-to-face visits or through email, through phone, through text. And then there were also experts that were given tutorials on and provided extra materials on YouTube, and then a needs assessment tool and so on, and presentations and extra materials to facilitate learning at the school level. So incorporated in this model as well is what we call an improvement cycle of the Plan, Do, Study Act, which basically is a very structured way of helping you go through the whole cycle of the course. And every 2 weeks, you're checking what problems arise and then implementing solutions to these problems so that you are sort of improving your implementation of the course in real time as you go along. This was done at the school level and at the division level. So how am I for time? I'm not sure. Do I have a few more minutes? Jose?
Yes, please go
anyone-
for it. We are a little bit over time, but I think it's interesting that you go a little bit more. Victoria, go ahead.
Okay, so in the pivot during COVID, what happened? So we had to, instead of just about 250,000 K-3 teachers, we had to reach about 900,000. So, and everybody was home, nobody could do any face-to-face, right? So everything had to be done mostly online. So we had to pivot during COVID. And so here, instead of courseware, we simplified the course materials. These were just downloadable modules in PDF. So there was no high bandwidth requirement. ELL and digital actually does not require on bandwidth either, because these are offline courseware. So you're not going online, but you have face-to-face learning action cells. So during COVID, most people couldn't do face-to-face, but in fact, there were areas where there was less COVID, so they could do face-to-face. There were areas where they really couldn't, so they were doing purely online learning action cells. And then there were areas where they would blend, some online, some face-to-face. So it's essentially what was strengthened in this pivot during the LDM model is that they added a portfolio assessment, so that they strengthened the assessment part. And instead of just a study part prior to the opening of classes where you're just studying the course, they incorporated a practicum part where they were applying everything that they learned, which is delivering remote learning during the rest of the school year. So the implementation of the LDM courses actually took one whole school year, because there was a theoretical part and then there was a practicum part, and strengthened assessment. Finally, lessons and insights. As Chirp said earlier, it should be demand-driven. It must meet a stated need or priority. You must have buy-in at all levels of governance and operations. It has to be system embedded. You must take into account the existing TPD and ICT policies, practices, structures, mechanisms, resources, and capabilities already in place, and not build a separate system or an add-on. The design has to be flexible. This is very important. You have to ensure that your model has the core elements of effective TPD. High quality learning resources, self-and-peer learning, collaboration, classroom practice, expert support, assessment, access to ICTs. But you should use your model, the way you design it, should still allow for localization. In other words, different blends from high tech to no tech, depending on the context of the teacher learner, to ensure inclusiveness and equity, because many teachers still have limited access to devices and connectivity, and also teachers have different needs and priorities, styles, skill sets, constraints, etc. Finally, no at-scale program will work well in the same way everywhere and for everyone. So the focus should be on continuous improvement towards transformative change. So you have to empower and support teachers and educational leaders at local levels. So that's in the case of the Philippines, that's at the division level, the district, and the school, to assess first their readiness for TPD. Then they need to be able to monitor the progress as they go along, resolve issues and problems in real time, and then continue to iterate the model for maximum efficiency, efficacy, and inclusivity. That's it. Sorry for going over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. No, that was really interesting, and we've seen a lot of participants saying how useful your presentation has been. So thank you very much. So in the interest of time, we had some questions that are related to each other. So let me say it all at once to you, Victoria. So basically, a lot of the participants were interested in understanding a little bit better when you're talking about the rural teachers and urban teachers, so the different results that you've seen in terms of performance. So we had Rich and Dorji, from Bhutan asking what were the factors that could be attributed for this difference in teacher learning gains after the implementation of the digital pilot models. So a lot of participants were interested in understanding why did urban teachers did worse, why did rural teachers perform it better. If you had any insights on these, any learnings that you have from these already. Thank you. I think you're on mute, sorry.
So our evaluation didn't focus so much on looking into the variations. But what we do know from our case studies is that the way that the urban schools are structured and their profiles are very different from rural schools. So urban schools usually have more students and they are more congested and there are different shifts. So you have a sort of classes in the morning and in the afternoon. Sometimes there's also in the evening, right? Where rural schools, there can be big rural schools, but also very many small schools where, you know, there are fewer teachers, fewer students. Also, urban schools get most of the resources. So it could be, it's a confounding variable, is that they were less engaged in the pilot than because they had other programs running. So there were overlapping activities and there were constraints in time and in engagement in the urban schools than the ones in the rural schools who tend to get as much resources or assistance. So those are the two things that we thought: the profile of the urbans, the different profile of the urban schools, and the structure of the school day there and the school week there, and then the presence of other competing programs.
Perfect. No, that is
so
very clear.
But can I just emphasize that it's
Yes,
not to
sure.
do, we don't think it's to do with the quality, the sort of the competencies of the teacher. It's more environmental rather than specific teachers, like urban teachers are better or rural teachers are better. It's not that. It's more the context.
Thanks for the clarification. Okay, so thank you very much, Victoria. I think in the interest of time, we'll move to our next case study presentation. So we'll now hear a little bit about the case of Uzbekistan with Bakityur Namazov, Program Specialist in Education at UNESCO Tashkent. Bakityur, the floor is yours, if you can hear it.
Okay, greetings everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Can everyone hear and see my screen?
We can hear you. We can see your screen. Yeah, now it's in presentation mode. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so quickly about the structure of the education system in Uzbekistan. So Uzbekistan has like over 35 million population. And we have a school size of 10,000 schools in Uzbekistan, and teacher size is a little over than 500,000, 500,000. And the teacher professional development cycle is happening every year. So, so teachers are asked to go through the teacher professional development every year, and every year they have to complete 36 hours. And while I'm speaking from the hotel where we are running the workshop, UNESCO workshop for the further refining the teacher development models for Uzbekistan. And right now we are testing two models basically for Uzbekistan. One is for the teachers of public education sector. It's like a primary and secondary education for K11 level. And the second model is for the teachers of creative and gifted children, so-called presidential schools. So this is the model that we are introducing for the Ministry of Public Education. the Ministry of Public Education has a central teacher training and research institute named after Avloni. So together with UNESCO, we are right now discussing this model. So this model will be applied for the whole system of Uzbekistan, and for all teachers, like 500,000 teachers will be able to go through this model, using this model, and to upgrade themselves every year. So the model has a centric part, which is the learning management system. If you can see in the very center, you see the hyperlink online guido.uz. This is the learning management system that the ministry applies. The ministry put lots of effort to designing this learning management system to make it simple and user-friendly for teachers, so that teachers will not have a challenges using this platform. So the interesting side is that this learning management system also integrates the classroom assessment mechanism, so that teachers' qualification and the competencies are also diagnosed through this learning management system before they start their learnings. So the important part is that this learning management system is designed in a need-based. So teachers will take a test, and then the learning management system will automatically identify and design the trajectory for the teachers' professional development, and they offer the course. So teachers, of course, are able to select the course and select through this model. Teachers will be given the opportunities to take various training courses globally available also. And also, in order to engage teachers through the interactive and peer learning, the system also allows them to go to the Telegram chat services. Telegram is widely popular in Uzbekistan, so we use Telegram chat. So in each thematic areas and each grade levels, Telegram bots are available, so teachers can interact and share the materials and discuss what they have learned, what they have applied in the classroom through the Telegram. So, and also, you know, since as a COVID demonstrated that the Zoom and MS Teams and video broadcasting platforms are essential for teachers to deliver and to learn. So the Uzbekistan, the Ministry of Education introduced the webinar platform that's similar to Zoom platform, but it's a local national one, which is free of charge and includes all the Zoom specificities. So this learning management system also provides teachers to use this webinar series to listen and to deliver the teachings. Also, this model enables teachers to broadcast their lessons or their video materials or listen from the YouTube channels. And in addition to this, interesting part is the government is shifting from exam-based teacher professional development to the learning achievement of teachers. They are focusing more on the learning achievements and how teachers perform after taking the professional development courses in the classroom. So since in the past, Uzbekistan had like a teacher training courses once in a 5 year, but since we are moved into every year training mode, there is a huge pressure on the system in terms of efficiency and the monetary terms. So that's why the government is attempting to engage a larger number of private sector service providers, as well as universities. So teachers will have now more options to select from for the TPD programs, including the Coursera, Udemy, and etc. So this is basically briefly about the model number 1. So this is model number 2 for the presidential school for the creative innovative children. So the specificities of this A model is that this model emphasizes on the professional learning community among the teachers and trainers and mentors, so that the teachers can not only learn, make a self-learning, but also interact with each other, among each other, to share the experiences and to educate each other, maybe. Yeah. So another specificity is that this model is not addressed to the enhancement of the subject teachers, what kind of subject knowledge teachers have, but also it focuses on the entire schools need improvement, overall school performance, so that not only teachers can better perform, but also entire school ecosystem can better perform after the TPD sessions. Also, through this TPD model, presidential schools are trying to emphasize more on the social emotional learning and peer engagement among the students as well. So this model also include similar to Philippines case, the face-to-face training for the mentors, for the teacher trainers, and as well as engagement of teachers with the mentors in the later stages. So the good side is the mentors and teacher trainers are in this model are given a precise task, a precise role to guide, not only in the online sessions, but also in the classroom performance. So that enables teachers to perform better in the classroom. But yet there are some limitations in both models that we are currently discussing. So we have 22% of teachers has no access to computers or using the old smartphones, that they have some challenges using this kind of high-tech learning management system. We have some elder teachers that they have some resistance or let's say difficulties in getting engaged with distance education or using the social platforms for teachers. And also we have some remote areas, like deserted areas or high mountainous areas, which are far from the central teacher training centers. So they also have challenges on the face-to-face training to attend. And these places also have limited connectivity, internet or telephone lines. And also PIMA institutions recently adopted like 2 years ago, and their learning management system is still emerging. It's still developing, and there are limited content available. And then some teachers we analyzed claim that some content that needs to be developed in Uzbek language, because most of the teachers are referring to English content, Russian content. They need some Uzbek content localized as well. And assessment of learning achievements of teachers are one of the areas that we don't know yet how teachers are learning, in what extent and how they're applying this learning content into the classroom teaching. And another challenge is that in the model of Avloni, the Ministry of Public Education is offering, there are limited interaction among the teachers. We don't know how much teachers are applying their acquired knowledge in the classroom, as I said earlier, and there are limited peer learning structure. We don't know how much teachers are interacting with each other, and I think in the model we should test it and then improve this aspect, and then maybe increase the efficiency of the Telegram groups that teachers use among themselves. And we think that there is a limited link between individual needs and institutional needs for the model of Avloni. We don't only want teacher empowerment, but we want, through the teacher empowerment, better performance of the school overall. So if I briefly mention about how do we address the issues, then so we want more wider engagement of private sector for the content development for teachers. We know that the private sector is doing a good job on this. And the Ministry of Public Education acknowledging the importance of the learning management system for teachers, they are committed to allocate $1 million annually to develop a new content for teachers. And then also maintain the learning management system as well. And of course, for the content development, there is a opportunity for wider engagement of innovative and creative teachers, so that a good content in local languages can be developed by teachers themselves. And then maybe one of the options that the ministry is considering is to develop mobile teacher professional development services to deliver professional development courses for teachers in the remote schools. It means that like a few high professional mentors will come to the schools, then conduct the teacher professional development courses of these teachers of the school. The classroom.
Actually, I think we can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Did we just lose Bakhtiar?
Yeah, I think we did. Bakhtiar, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear loud and clear. I think he has probably come to his last slide. I'll just send him a WhatsApp just to check. Right.
Hello.
But,
hello. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what kind of. So basically, I just finished my presentation. Sorry for disconnecting. I had a little bit connection problem. Thank you. Over.
Thank you very much, Bakhtiar. So let's then take some questions specifically to Bakhtiar, and then we open for more general questions. So first off, then I'll invite one of our participants to pose a question orally. That is Dorji from Bhutan. Can you hear us?
You should be able to unmute yourself, Dorji, now.
Was it?
We can hear you. Yes.
Oh, was it me that you were asking?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to. I just asked a question. You know, if the impact of the teacher professional development programs that is not very clear. You know, what are the basis and the rationale that is used to develop the teacher professional development programs, and if the impact of TPD programs in the actual classroom teaching and the students learning is not very clear, what could be the possible issues that need to be addressed? Thank you very much.
So thank you for the question. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, teacher professional development system in Uzbekistan was every 5 years for 1 month's duration. So it means that the teachers would have a chance to go upgrade themselves every 5 years, which is a long time period. But the government intending to introduce annual capacity building for teachers, but making teachers to create the environment for every year upgrade. There's a huge pressure for the infrastructure of the teacher TPD system of Uzbekistan. So that's why they are offering a flexible approach. So to scale the number of teachers annually going through the TPD from 20% to 100% annually. This is one scale. Another scale is we had face-to-face training only every 5 years, and there was a fixed curricula. And this curricula would always be repeating over years and years, no changes. But now we are trying to offer various variety of courses and content for teachers that they can self-learn themselves in the first place, so that in the content-wise, it's scaled out of TPD system. The classroom performance, of course, we don't have yet, as I said, we are in the developing stage. We are testing another cycle of the model soon, I mean, a couple of weeks time. Classroom performance of teachers is another area that we have to look in parallel while we are testing this model. Of course, this is very important. Yeah. If I answer the question.
You did very well, Batyar. Thank you. So now we'll have a chance to address some of the more general questions, and I invite all three speakers to address them as you wish. So first of all, let me start by one that has been raised by more than one participant, which is related to the different contexts of application of the TPD at scale model. So they are basically, we had Mohammed Feroz Abedi from Afghanistan asking about whether you think those digital models are applicable for countries which have internet and network coverage issues, electricity issues, no devices. So challenges of several developing countries. So how do you see this model possible for these countries? And we had also Sugladei from Bangladesh asking, about how do you see this applied to least developed countries where sometimes quality education is a big challenge, and how to make it sustainable for teachers. So if you want to address a little bit the challenges for least developed countries and those challenges related to internet network coverage and infrastructure in general. Thank you.
May I respond? This is
Yes.
Vicky. As I said in one of the insights that I presented, which is also based on what an insight that was mentioned by Chirp, is that if you take a design, if you're sort of the central authority, you're the ministry or you're the Department of Education, you're in charge of TPD in your country. From a design perspective, what you want is you have to, what we say is design for scale. Meaning to say, for inclusions, because you need to cover all of the teachers. You cannot exclude any teachers. You have to reach everyone. So then your design needs to be flexible enough and varied enough that it can be localized. So you have a general model where you're assuring that the core elements that we know from decades of research need to be there for TPD to be effective, like high quality materials, support, collaboration, peer learning, and so on. And assessment, they all need to be there. And then once you deploy the model, it's flexible enough that it can be adapted, modified, localized for any kind of context. So you can have a model where there's sort of it's not so high tech that only those with very reliable connectivity or a lot of bandwidth can use it. So it can't just be an LMS based model. So if there's an LMS based model, there has to be a version of that can be used in areas where there is no connectivity, where they don't have computers, where they might not even have electricity. So in terms of like sort of designing at scale, you need to sort of have the big picture and then the flexibility to adjust to local contexts. So the whole range of high tech to no tech, and all different sorts of blends. Because, for example, you might say face-to-face professional learning communities might be good, but what if the schools are in mountainous areas where it's hard to sort of meet each other? So you're not gonna be doing face-to-face, or if there are security issues, right, or there's some danger involved. So it could be you're using two-way radio, not internet, not mobile, but more basic. I don't know, smoke signals or widgets, whatever it is, whatever the technology, the point is you have to have a professional learning community. So it's not really the technology. You have to focus on the core elements and see what technology can support that given the context. Over, thank you.
Thank you very much, Victoria. So if we may then jump to another topic that was also addressed earlier. So it's a question about gender that came from Liana Gertz, Kyrgyz Republic, that is asking about gender and generation, actually. So she's asking if you've looked at gender and generation in the teaching workforce in terms of the lack of balance in the workforce, senior and young generations, and how both of those are included in the workforce.
I don't quite get the question. So you're talking about their inclusiveness within professional or for professional development, probably?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Right. Min, I would like probably just like share the case of Indonesia, right? So I shared like the model which is being run by Putra Sampurna Foundation together with the coalition secretariat, right? Where they are looking at master teachers doing professional development for teachers in schools. And the thing is, like quite often before that, quite a lot of the professional development is carried out quite centralized, right? So they would all go into the city, usually over the weekend. And I think that is where the gender so-called the gender inequity comes in at times, because quite often, although the majority of the teachers were female teachers, but those going for professional development were usually male teachers, because the female teachers were expected to stay on at home to look after the household over the weekend rather than going for the professional development itself, right? But after they set up the teacher learning center, I think there is more of that flexibility of time where, as what Vicky said, is quite a blend of professional learning activities that take place from like going through a course, engaging in an activity, applying it in the classroom, right through to the sharing, where it could be taking place basically anytime, anywhere, and usually it may take place after school as well. So like just based on like what we have observed in Indonesia, it really like address some of the so-called gender, and we may say the generation issues as well, right? Especially the gender issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Very clear and very informative. So now if we, another question that came as well, and that question came through several participants. It relates to teacher motivation, basically. So we had Bashir Mahmoud asking whether the teacher training should be compulsory for all teachers, and also Bachar Gao and Manana Rachani asking whether you have experience or any tips for motivating teachers to continuously engage in TPD.
I might answer quickly just to share the experience in the Philippines. So in the Philippines, it's a combination of intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So since there's a career progression system, there's a compliance mechanism where in order for you to be able to renew your license as a teacher, you need to complete certain units of CPD every several years and so on. So there is a requirement to do that. But it's not so stringent that it's hard, you know, it's not comprehensive of your learning trajectory. So you still have to be very motivated to take ownership of your own learning. We found that having professional learning communities, right, and continuously engaging in professional learning, using several modalities. So it could be face-to-face communities with just teachers in your own school and you're talking and sharing, or teachers sort of in your vicinity, or if you're online on an online community, you have teachers from all over the world that you're talking to. That can be very motivating. But that is a key issue because teachers can go through TPD for compliance. So they're completing the requirement, but they're not really learning. And that's not very efficient and that's not very effective. So we need to be very mindful of that combination, the balance between extrinsic and intrinsic. And both need to be fostered or encouraged at at all levels. Sort of at the central level, there has to be a system that everybody understands that if you meet these requirements, if you do well, you will get promoted or you will get you'll get a higher salary or whatever it is. So the career progression system has to be clear and transparent and applied sort of fairly. And then at the lower levels, there has to be incentives, there has to be rewards and so on. That can be tailored depending on the context of the school or the division. So a balance between intrinsic and extrinsic is really essential.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Victoria.
Well, I may also add that
Victoria
said that in Uzbekistan, in addition to what teachers may get as a salary incentives, we have like a promotion system from the country. Like teachers may be granted like 10 times more the salary that they receive currently if they apply the new technologies in innovative ways. So that's why teachers are quite motivated to be a champion teachers. So to get this 10 times salary grades, in addition to that, the moral acknowledgement of teachers as the best teacher in the country. So there are some moral and material benefits for the teachers to go through this TPD system.
Yeah, I think just probably quickly to add to what Vicky and Baktu have said as well. I think the balance between extrinsic and intrinsic is really crucial. And I think a lot of the extrinsic part really comes in through the teacher policy with respect to appraisal performance as well as expectations of professional development itself. It is quite a fine line, right? And the thing is, if you're able to tie the professional development, like in the case of the Uzbekistan, right, tying that professional development to performance, meaning the application of what they have learned into classroom practices, then it's it's not just about the impact, but it's also to a certain extent, the intrinsic motivation to want to be able to perform well, right? Of course, that is extrinsically motivated as well, but at times, one inspire the other, right? So I would say the teacher policy supporting it is quite crucial, and therefore the whole ecosystem have got to not just recognize it, but to be able to have the capacity built in order to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all three speakers. So I think we are running a little bit over time, but let's still address one question that I think is very important as well and has been raised by two participants. So who started the discussion was Mithili Ramchand, who asked about any impact evaluations on teacher professional development. So she asked whether research is indicating that there is no linear relationship between TPD and students' learning. How are the cases that you have presented planning to connect the dots between teacher professional development and students' learning outcomes? Is there any and then another participant, Bashid, is asking whether there is any impact evaluation on that.
I can share that in the Philippines, there's an evaluation of the pilot of ELLN Digital, and that's available on our website to read the evaluation report. Our stance is and we're coming out with a working paper on TPD Scale soon in the next couple of weeks, is that the work of our coalition is focused on improving teaching quality. So we make the link between strengthening teacher professional development and ensuring the inclusiveness of teacher professional development to improve teacher quality. So, and then that's a separate thing from then saying linking teaching quality to student learning outcomes, because as we know there are many studies on that already, so I don't think we don't need to prove the link between the two. There are many studies saying that it's actually not just teaching quality, it's a very overdetermined learning outcomes are overdetermined. So you need to look at all of the other factors that can, including school level characteristics and so on, and then community and personal sort of characteristics to explain, learning outcomes. So our focus is on sort of the delimitation of our work is on targeting teaching quality by improving, strengthening professional development of teachers.
Yep, just to probably add on to what Vicky said, totally spot on, because the few projects that we are also involved in, I think the focus is a lot on the impact of the teacher professional development on teacher practices, right? So if, as what Vicky said as well, we would be publishing the case study soon, and you'll see that in the case of Indonesia, when we were actually reporting the impact, we were looking at teacher practices, right? As one of the ways to be documenting the impact in terms of the quality of teaching and learning, right? And what we have done in Cambodia as well with respect to the higher education improvement project, we have only started documenting the impact in the classroom in terms of teacher practices. What we hope to do eventually is to get the teachers to compile teaching portfolio that would include students' work as well, right? As part of the demonstration of the improvement in teaching and learning. Thank you. I think the Bakdio might have something to add as well. Bakdio?
Thank you very much. So I think it's time for us to start closing our session. Thank you very much for our speakers, and thank you also for the great questions in the chat and a lot of thought-provoking ones. Over to you, José Luis.
Thank you, Marina. And so a couple of points before we close our webinar today. First of all, thank you to our partner. TPD Scale is also a KIX research partner. He's part of the KIX community and is contributing to the overall goal of strengthening education systems by producing, mobilizing, and exchanging knowledge across our GP KIX countries. So thank you so much, Chirp, Victoria, and Bakhtiar. Our webinar and the overall KIX program is made possible by the support of IDRC, International Development Research Center in Canada, that leads the implementation of the overall KIX program, and the Global Partnership for Education, which makes this initiative possible in its greater mission of mobilizing all actors to transform education systems for better learning outcomes. So our KIX EAP team will continue to support and respond to demands from countries. We have an open call for expression of interest on regional knowledge exchange. The purpose of this regional knowledge exchange is for countries to learn from innovative solutions in other countries and share experiences on what is working in addressing specific demands that they have. The links are being included in the chat now. We also continue in March, we'll have again a new podcast episode that is addressing interesting people and relevant actors from our hub countries. It's coming out every first Wednesday of the month. We also have in the month of March, we'll have a workshop on education data, where we will be addressing the use of global data banks for relevant analysis at national level. Our webinar series will continue. The webinar 12 will focus on the connections between education and development and make a link to the centenary of Paulo Freire. So we also want to learn how we can do better our work and our collaboration with you. So please fill out the post-event survey. That is now, the link is being shared in the chat. and contact with us through NORRAG KIX email that is also being shared, or through your national coordinators and your national steering committee members to share your priorities, to share your questions you have about KIX activities. You're also welcome to subscribe to our alerts to be the first ones to receive any information about upcoming activities. Our journey does not stop here. It is just starting. Thank you all and see you all soon.